What's up, guys? Brett Okamoto from ESPN, and this is a special edition, I suppose, of UFC Best Bets. We did do a normal edition on UFC 263 with, of course, my man, coach, fighter James Krause of Kansas City, and then you got Nick Kalikas over there at the Circa Sportsbook there in Las Vegas. We broke all that down, talked about the two title fights, gave our best bets, but it is kind of a special night, right? Because Nate Diaz is fighting Leon Edwards. So special that it's not for any type of title, but it's still a 5-round fight. I guess Nate Diaz is only fighting 5-round fights for the rest of his career, but I will take it. I like the fact that this fight is 5 rounds. I think that there's a lot to discuss in this fight. I think there's a lot to discuss in terms of what it does for the careers of both men. But what we are going to focus on, of course, is how do you win money on this fight if you want to take a stab at it. And the line that I saw this morning was Leon as high as minus 588 was the line that I saw this morning. Nate Diaz coming back at plus 400. So we're not really talking about a fight that Vegas sees as necessarily competitive, but that doesn't mean that you can't make money off of it, especially if you like the dog, if you think there's value in Nate Diaz. So, James, I want to go to you. Just the floor is yours. What do you think about it? Because that's a pretty high line. Normally, we're not talking about these types of lines because we're talking about main events that are very close. This one is a little bit wide.
Yeah, I mean, I can justify the expensive line, but 580 it's a little. I mean, that's almost disrespectful to Nate Diaz. I really like Leon Edwards in this fight, but man, 580 is like I can't see paying the price. Paying that price for it. I do feel like that Leon is a really really tough matchup for Nate. I think the fight standing, I mean, Leon is just an incredible, lengthy, accurate, sharpshooter of a striker. And he can wrestle really well. He grapples really well. He showed that in his fight against Gunnar Nelson that he has very good wrestling and his jiu-jitsu is very good as well. But I think the one place that Leon does not get credit for, and I think that's going to be the biggest difference in this fight, is in the clinch. If you watch the fight with Masvidal and Diaz, they spent a ton of time in the clinch, and Masvidal really did some damage in there. I personally think Leon is better than Masvidal in the clinch, and I think he's going to be able to do more damage. Leon has some of the best elbows on the break from the clinch in the division, maybe all of in the UFC. He is incredible. The bad thing about Leon and why nobody's talking about him and kind of why he's been disrespected by, almost by the organization, but he hasn't gotten the love. He hasn't got that title shot yet after he's beaten him forever. He's just not sexy. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't do anything flashy. He doesn't finish a lot of the times. He's just not overly sexy, but he does everything right from a coaching perspective. I mean, the dude doesn't make a lot of mistakes, man. He really doesn't.
Nick, what were your thoughts on where the line opened and where do you think it goes from here?
I saw the opener, the market opened minus 275. I got on when it was minus 310. What? Yeah. I mean, I was drooling. I couldn't wait to rush out and bet this fight at minus 310. I didn't even get the opener 275, right, market wide, but it was still, I knew it was going to skyrocket.
Boy, James Krause, and let him know, Nick. You couldn't have shared that.
God, Nick, come on, man. You got to let me know this stuff, bro.
But some places have canceled this out because the fight got moved and postponed. So some of those early tickets early on are not good anymore. So that's a bad thing. But that being said, that's how low it was. So I knew it was ridiculous, right? I mean, of course, you can't even blame the original person that set the odds, which I'm not sure. I mean, market wide now, there's lines that flip out all over the place. They pop out originally in Europe, all over, offshore in Vegas. Sometimes it's just kind of spread out all over. So whoever opened that particular line, I think they were expecting respect on Diaz. So I'm not even faulting the guy, right? But of course, the sharps came in and just pounced on that line. I mean, and now we're seeing it at minus 535. I'm expecting Diaz numbers, money coming in here as well. So we're a little bit lower at Circa, but our comeback is still pretty good at plus 420-ish or so. So, yeah, this has been crazy. I agree with everything that James said. Stylistically, it's just a tough matchup for Diaz. That's why we all went out and bet it at the early price.
Yeah.
Nick, where do you see the line going? Where do you think the line will end?
It's not going to get much higher than this. I know there's some 600s.
You think it'll go higher?
No, I don't think it'll get much higher than this because I think Diaz will demand some respect and demand some public money on fight day especially. So I think we will see this line drop a little bit. Hey, we will see some sharp action come in on Diaz as well, right? Because of the prices you're getting right now. A lot of people that got on early and their bets are still good, they're probably going to buy back out just to have a free roll anyway too as well. So there's a lot of line manipulation going on here, and there's a lot of sharps that are going to be on both sides, but the public will be on Diaz. There's no doubt about that. So I'm expecting this line to drop a little bit more by fight day.
Nick, when you have a fight like this where it's popular, I mean, a lot of people are going to be watching this pay-per-view because they want to watch Nate Diaz. But it's not necessarily looked at it, or at least the line does not indicate a very competitive fight. I'd be curious to know, what are the props that maybe Circa has, and is, because I got to imagine that that's a way to get people to bet on this fight, because they're going to be watching it. The interest is high, but maybe they don't want to bet aside. What kind of props is Circa offering? What have you seen in the market, and do you like any of the props that are up on this fight?
Well, right now, actually, at Circa, we're opening up our props tonight. They go live around like almost midnight Pacific time, so early AM Thursday morning or whatnot is when we release our full props. But there's going to be some value, obviously, out there. A high number on Diaz by submission, Diaz by finish out there, Diaz by decision, and then you're going to probably get a little bit of value, of course, with Edwards by decision out there. I'm not in front of my computer at this moment, so I don't have those numbers that are market wide out there available. But the props are definitely going to be plus money, heavy across the board, especially for Diaz's side. But you are going to be able to find some value on Edwards if he finishes inside the distance as well. I mean, there's going to be obviously some opportunities there because obviously Diaz is a little bit tougher. But what James said, man, he cuts. So despite his durability, he gets cut open fight by fight. So it's hard to kind of back Diaz because of that. And Edwards is going to probably bust him open. So I would be cautious if you're taking Edwards like to go the distance or by decision because of that factor alone. So the props are definitely going to be the way to bet this fight if you don't want to lay the chalk or just take Diaz as the underdog.
James, I don't think it'll be a thing where like Diaz quits or gets subbed or knocked out. I think it'll be a thing where the referee's like, no, this cut's too bad. You know what I mean? Like,
that's how his last fight ended. And
yeah.
Basically, he is always at jeopardy in that at this point. I mean, that is an issue that he has, unfortunately, and there's not much he can do about it. He could have a surgery to try and shave off some of it. But at the end of the day, like, this guy has – this is why people love him. He's had a long career. He's taking a lot of damage. He cuts easily at this point. James, so one of the things that I love to talk to you about when we're breaking down these fights is the psychological aspect of it. I don't look at Leon as a guy who gets caught up in any of that. He seems pretty rock solid, but we're also talking about a guy who has been maybe one of the most unluckiest fighters in the UFC, that he hasn't gotten the credit that he's deserved. He missed a significant amount of time with the COVID, with injury, what happened in London. He was supposed to fight Tyron Woodley in London and last year. That didn't happen. The guy who has done a lot but has not always gotten full credit for it. And now here he is. He's in a fight where he's favored 6-1 and he's looking across at Nate Diaz. When you've been in the corner and when you've been in that octagon yourself, like, could that mess with him at all? I mean, I'm just saying, could any of this pressure on Leon have any kind of negative impact on him?
If you're asking me if those things are factors, they're absolutely factors. Are they factors in this fight? No, not a chance at all. Both of these guys are tier one mental monsters. You will not shake either one of these guys. Both these guys come from a very rough upbringing. They've been fighting their entire life. It is no problem for them to get in there and fight another grown man. I can assure you. And not only are they fighters, they're also both competitors and they want to win. And that's why you see, that's why Nate is the way he is. That's why people love him, is because he's a competitor. I mean, look at the Conor fight. I mean, if you watch round one of the first Conor fight, you'd be like, this is done. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be a blowout. He's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? He's not going anywhere. And Leon, you've seen him fight top tier guys, and go through. He's never been shook ever. And I personally don't think that either. I don't think that the mental will cancel each other out. Both of these guys are fighters. Both of these guys are winners, and both of these guys are extreme competitors. Tier 1, 10 out of 10. It will not be a factor in my opinion.
I want to ask you one more question about Leon, and this is absolutely meant to be no disrespect to Nate, because he can certainly go out there and win this fight.
Sure.
We've seen him do it before, pull off those types of upsets. But what do you think the ceiling is on Leon? I mean, you've been singing his praises this entire time. Can he beat Kamaru Usman? Do you think that he is a real challenge, that if that fight ever happens, that you would take a real strong look at potentially betting Leon Edwards against Kamaru Usman?
I like Leon a lot. I've been on him for a long time, and he's another guy that has been he's consistent, right? Like, he doesn't get a lot of respect. Sometimes he's just now starting to get the respect, but he has not in the past gotten respect. That loss to Claudio Silva really shook the lines for him. You know what I mean? And then he's, like I said, he's just not sexy. He doesn't do anything crazy. He's just, a jab cross hook guy, but he is damn good at it, man. And he's good in the clinch. He's a good wrestler, good striker, good grappler. He's good everywhere. As far as where he goes, I mean, it is not crazy. I think he is amongst the elite. The two guys that I think give him serious problems are obviously Covington and and Usman. Those guys, they just have the ability to take his best asset away, which is open mat striking. He's just really good open mat striker. And in the clinch, he's very good in the clinch, but those guys would be wrestling him the entire time. There would not be any time for there will not be a break. You know what I mean? Like he's extremely athletic. I think Colby and I think Usman both give him problems for sure, but he can definitely have moments in that fight. And it would not surprise me if you told me, you said, hey, I'm from the future and Leon Edwards beats Kamaru Usman, I'd be like, I could, yeah, okay. Yeah. I wouldn't argue with you.
Sure. How can you argue with a man from the future? It's tough to do. Nick, one final thing for you along those same lines. I'm curious to know if Leon goes out and looks great against Nate, what do you think the line would be between him and Kamaru Usman? Because Kamaru has looked so darn good in his last few fights. How wide do you think it would be?
It'd be probably mid 250s. So Usman maybe -2 and 250-ish off the top of my head. He would still get that respect. I mean, he's looked great. Obviously, look what he went out and did in Masvidal last time. That's going to be still fresh. Even if Edwards comes out here and dominates and looks great, people are still going to have that memory of the improvements. A lot of people are going to believe that it's an Usman stand-up game, and it's hard to argue that too on top of it. So, yeah, probably around -250-ish, I would think it would be a fair market opening price for that fight.
All right. Good stuff, boys. I mean, I wasn't completely expecting it. We don't always do this with the non-title fights on these pay-per-views, but we had to talk about Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards. That'll be a fun 5-round fight before we get to the title fights on Saturday. Enjoy UFC 263. Again, if you want more betting advice, go over to the ESPN Bet channel. You will find the full version of UFC 263 best bets for this week. And we will be back next week to talk about our winnings and talk about the next round of fights. We'll see you then.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.